Well, what you're looking at is a model of the children's garden, and you'll recall this is part of a service learning project that we started last fall with the Design 1 landscape architecture class. We went out in the state of Oklahoma and we asked 5th grade teachers and 5th grade students what they would like to see in the garden. The landscape design students then came back with that information and they each created models to represent a children's garden that we're actually installing here at the Studio Gardens. Now, if you're interested in seeing these models, you can check that out at our website. We've got updates on the garden progress and also the plans of the models, and you can also see some of the pictures that the children across the state of Oklahoma drew for us to go into these models. Now, when we got done with all of that, we actually looked at all of these and took some of the best components and came up with a final design for the garden. Now, this particular model was actually put together by Heather Frickenschmidt, and she's done a beautiful job on it, and I just wanted to show you some of the components that we have here. Now, as we start, one of the things that you see here in the corner, we have kind of a little work area, and these are actually going to be workbenches for the children to do things like potting and interacting with the garden on. We also have a windsock right over here. And then as we move into this corner, we have a little water garden area, because that's one thing that we found that the kids really like to have some type of water feature in their garden. Now around here, we have kind of a little wildlife area. We have spots for birds and also butterflies, and this will be filled with plant material that actually attracts wildlife. We also have some bird houses, some nesting boxes and things like that. So this will be a nice little wildlife area. And finally, around in this corner, we have what we're going to be growing, some grain crops, also some other food crops, just things that the children can watch grow. Now, right in the center of the model here, you see a large outline of the state of Oklahoma. Now, this is actually going to be a large cement, and it will be to scale replica of the state of Oklahoma that we can use for geography lessons. We can draw in, say, the rivers of Oklahoma or the roads. We can also use it for estimating projects and things like that. So this is the final design for the garden. Now, what you see out here at this site doesn't quite look like that yet, and we're just getting started putting the garden together. Now, if you have a garden and you're wanting to get started, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is to take a soil test, and that's one of the spots we're at right now. We've picked our site, we've got it outlined with our fence, and we want to take a soil test so we know what we need to do to the soil. Now, we didn't have a grassy area here because this used to be a strawberry bed, so we didn't have to worry about killing grass. However, we are going to need to kill the weeds. Now, when we take the soil test, we're going to want to go around and in about 10 locations get soil samples. And what you would like to do is get a sample that's about 6 inches deep. Now, if you use a corer like this, that is very handy. You can just take and get a soil sample out. I also have my handy bucket here that I can dump that into. And I'm basically going to zigzag around this bed and get my soil samples. Now, if you don't have a corer, you can actually use a shovel. And what you're going to want to do there is actually get a slice out of this, and I've got my 6-inch slice here, and then what I'm going to do is actually take the center of this, and that's what I'm going to put in my bucket. Now, we're going to put all of the soil in the bucket and mix it up really well, and then we will put that in our soil test bag, which is right over here, and those are available at your local county extension office. And basically, you're going to need a pint of soil, and make sure that it's not just sopping wet, because that's a big mess. And you're going to want to fill this out, and for most of us, we're going to be right over here on homeowner, and we either took our soil sample from the home garden or the lawn, and then in this case, we're doing the home garden, and that will help them with the recommendations that they get. Now, you'll get your results back through your county extension office, and what you'll have is a soil test report like this. Now, in addition to the nutrients that are in the soil, one thing that we're very curious about is the pH of the soil, because that makes a difference on how well the plants do, how they can take up their nutrients. And we usually want a pH of anywhere between 6 and 7. And here you can see we've got 6.1. So down here, it says it's adequate. We don't need lime. However, if we look here, we'll notice that we have a pH of 5.5. We also have a buffer index, and that kind of indicates how well that soil you can raise the pH. It's easier on some soils than others. It takes more lime. So we look down here. We want to raise it to a pH of 6.8. We would need 115 pounds of ECCE lime per 1,000 square feet. Now, that ECCE lime is lime based on 100%. That's effective calcium carbonate equivalent. So here we've got some hydrated horticultural lime, and we look on here and we have our calcium carbonate equivalent is 128%. So this is a little bit higher. So we're going to be using less of this. We'll calculate it back to put on here. And what we would do is actually spread that over the top and work it in. And it's a good time to do that right now because the microbes in the soil are working a lot in the summer, and if you don't have any vegetation there, it's a good time to amend that soil and bring the pH up. But sometimes you may not even have to do that. So get your soil tested before you start doing something to it.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.